What actually happens after we die? Do we just disappear into the void, or is there a whole other reality waiting for us on the other side? It's literally the ultimate mystery, isn't it? Well, today on The Explainer, we are taking a deep dive into a highly detailed, intensely emotional spiritual universe that attempts to answer exactly that. We're going to explore the cosmology mapped out in the book, The Laws of the Spirit World. Think of it as a roadmap to the afterlife. I'll be your guide as we navigate the realms, the unbending rules, and the profound, sometimes heavy lessons hidden just beyond the veil. To really understand this whole framework, we have to start with a deeply human, deeply emotional question. Do our loved ones still see us after they're gone? You see, this entire explainer is anchored in a true, incredibly tragic story. Picture this. It's 1980. Two energetic young brothers from Bombay, Vispi and Ratoo Bhavnagri, who were absolutely obsessed with cars, are killed instantly in a devastating crash. In a split second, a mother and father lost their entire world. But for their mother, Khorshed, that horrific moment was actually just the beginning of a completely different kind of journey. Driven by this absolute, overwhelming grief and a completely unyielding desire to connect with her departed sons, Khorshed embarked on a lifelong mission. And that mission resulted in her book, The Laws of the Spirit World. Through what the source material describes as automatic writing and direct spirit communications, Khorshed recorded this vast, intricate spiritual cosmology, supposedly dictated right to her by Vispi and Ratoo from the other side. And I have to tell you, this isn't just a collection of warm, comforting words for the grieving. It's a highly structured, almost rigid rulebook for how the afterlife actually operates. Okay, let's get right into Chapter 1, The Transition and the Journey Beyond. Let's actually follow Vispi and Ratoo's story right from the very second of their accident. According to their account, death is absolutely not a sudden fade to black. Instead, it's this very specific multi-step transition. First, you have the human body. It's earthly, it's heavy. When Vispi's car crashed, he says he immediately found himself hovering outside this physical shell, completely free of any pain. The soul then moves into what's called the astral body. This is basically a lighter, exact replica of your human form, looking exactly as you did at the moment you died. But the journey doesn't stop there. The final stage involves shedding that astral shell to become pure spirit, a spirit body that is feather light. And here is a really cool detail. As a soul becomes wiser and spiritually advanced, this spirit form actually appears brighter and much younger. It's like the ultimate spiritual glow-up. But here's the thing. Not everyone realizes what's happened to them right away. Vispa and Ratoo shared this fascinating anecdote about an old man they found sitting by a beautiful brook in the spirit world. Because he still looked old, they instantly knew he was a newcomer. Get this. The man actually handed them his earthly address and asked them to point him toward home. When they gently explained that he had passed on, he flat out refused to believe it. They literally had to tell him, "Vacation, sir, you have come home from your vacation." It's such a profound little story because it perfectly illustrates how some souls are so intensely attached to their earthly lives that they reject the reality of their own passing. Moving right along to Chapter 2, The Architecture of the Afterlife. So once a soul finally accepts that they've transitioned, where do they actually go? Well, the spirit world is strictly mapped out into 7 distinct realms. Realms 1 through 3 are the lowest. They are described as dark, heavy, and painful. This is basically what we would call hell. Realm 4 is the in-between zone, a neutral starting point for your average human soul. And realms 5 through 7, those are the bright, peaceful, eternal spaces we think of as heaven. But the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that heaven and hell are not physical places. There are no pearly gates or pits of fire. They are purely a reflection of a soul's collective vibration. A negative soul literally cannot exist in the same space as a good soul. The vibrations just repel each other. So how exactly do you navigate these realms? It all comes down to your subconscious mind. Now, in this universe, your subconscious mind isn't just where your weird dreams live. It is the real you. It is your conscience, your higher self. Think of it as a massive, unerasable hard drive. It retains every single one of your past life memories, your absolute core truths, and the exact specific reasons why you were sent down to Earth in the first place. Next up, Chapter 3, Earth is Merely a School. This is where the cosmology radically flips the script on how we view our current lives. If the spirit world is this vast, eternal reality, what on earth is Earth? Well, according to the text, Earth is nothing more than a temporary, often incredibly painful 3D training institute. The spirit world is our actual, eternal home. This is a massive core teaching. We are souls, long before we are physical bodies. We only come down to Earth to learn really hard lessons, to be rigorously tested, and to pay off our karmic debts. Earth is just the gym, where the heavy lifting happens.
And the rules for enrolling in this earthly school are actually mind-blowing. First off, life events aren't random. Souls literally pre-choose their due date, the exact date of their death, before they are even born. Secondly, choosing to come back to Earth is a massive gamble. Sure, you might level up spiritually, but you also run the very real risk of messing up and falling to the lower realms. And finally, there's this incredibly poignant detail. Babies under 1 year old are still so deeply connected to the spirit world that they can actually observe their earthly situation, decide the vibe isn't right, and simply choose to return home. How wild is that?
Which brings us to Chapter 4, Karma, Choice, and Hidden Truths. The entire weight of this spiritual system rests entirely on two monumental concepts: free will and absolutely unavoidable karma. Let's look at the story of a guy named Jimmy. On Earth, Jimmy was this highly respected, very pious-looking man. Everyone loved him, but secretly, behind closed doors, he was actively training his kids to con, rob, and even kill without getting caught. When Vispi and Ratoo went looking for him in the spirit world, they expected to find him chilling in a high realm based on his earthly reputation, but they couldn't find him at all. Why? Because Jimmy had plummeted straight to the lowest, darkest realms. The unbending rule of this universe is stark. Your earthly reputationality means zero. You cannot fool the system, and your hidden, secret motives are completely transparent on the other side. And this dynamic brilliantly illustrates the intense emotional arc of another soul, Sordos. Sordos was actually a good soul who took a huge gamble by deliberately choosing an evil mother for his earthly rebirth. He thought a rough childhood would test and purify him, but the gamble totally backfired. He completely forgot his mission and fell deep into a life of crime. It wasn't until a horrific accident cost him his legs, leaving him at absolute rock bottom, completely alone in a jungle, that things finally shifted. In his darkest, most desperate moment, he prayed with genuine, raw sincerity. That single spark of true repentance was enough to awaken his subconscious, which acted like a flare, allowing higher souls to swoop in and perform miracles to help him. Which brings us to the absolute bedrock of this entire framework: free will. In this cosmology, there is no external devil sitting on your shoulder, whispering in your ear, forcing you to do bad things. Evil is a 100% pure, unadulterated choice. No one is ever forced to be good, and no one is forced to improve. Every single thought you have, word you speak, and action you take is your absolute personal responsibility. Let's pull it all together in Chapter 5, Reviewing the Spiritual Framework. All right, let's take a step back. As an explainer, we need to objectively review the actual internal logic of this whole story. When you really analyze this text, you're looking at a universe built on a perfect, infallible justice system with absolutely zero loopholes. It demands radical self-responsibility. Now, on one hand, this offers immense, profound comfort. Grieving people are told their loved ones are alive, happy, and living in perfect justice. But on the other hand, it presents a really heavy, unbending reality. Pain and suffering are viewed strictly as training tools or the repayment of karmic debt. Critics would absolutely point out a massive narrative hole here. It places a terrifying burden on the individual, basically implying that even horrific, senseless earthly suffering was somehow chosen by the soul for growth. It is a completely watertight system where the subconscious can never be fooled, but it leaves very little room for random tragedy. Everything has a stark reason. So I want to throw this question over to you. Is an afterlife of absolute zero-exception justice actually comforting? Or is it kind of a terrifying reality check? I mean, really imagine a universe where every hidden motive, every secret petty thought, and every tiny action is permanently etched onto your soul, determining your eternal real estate. It's a brilliantly constructed storytelling framework, but man, it is an undeniably heavy concept to sit with. The sheer comprehensive nature of Khorshed's work, mapping out free will, karma, and mission so methodically, leaves you with this intense sense of urgency. The message is clear: do not waste your precious time on Earth. Yet, intertwined with all that strict justice is this beautiful, overarching theme of deep compassion. It constantly reminds us that even the absolute darkest souls in the lowest realms can be reached and rescued if they just genuinely ask for help. I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought right from the heart of the source material. Live as if every thought, word, and action shapes the soul. Because, according to the laws of the spirit world, they literally do. Whether you view this as a literal, factual roadmap to the afterlife or just a deeply fascinating story about human morality and grief, it definitely makes you want to evaluate the choices you're making right now, today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning everything, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.